Today's story is about a clown who wrote an article that backfired on them epically because it comes from a place of complete ignorance and unnecessary hostility. Y'all know the old narrative about how video games are for kids, adults who play video games, or kids trapped in adult bodies, and all that junk. Well, that narrative is coming back in the form of this article, published by news outlet The Telegraph, whose headline reads, "Grown men shouldn't be wasting their lives playing video games. The only adults who still use the word playtime aren't the types to be found on the tube. They're busy riding around outside on e-scooters." I don't know if that was meant to be some epic dunk on gamers, the idea of riding e-scooters. Ride whatever you want, the subway, the tube, e-scooters. I don't get the flow of this article and the point it's trying to make through its awful analogies and comparisons. I don't know. So check this out. Traveling on the tube can be patronizing business at the best of times, so we're talking about the tube now, with all those reminders about minding the gap and in COVID times wearing a mask and leaving a safe space, as if that's somehow possible during rush hour. Do passengers really need to be reminded to carry a bottle of water when it's hot? Wow, somebody has major issues against just basic science, huh? Yet it seems even the Underground's advertisers are intent on infantilizing their customers. A Nintendo advert has been plastered across the network for some time, featuring grown men and women playing the Switch. Oh, the humanity. Grown men and women playing video games. The Switch device that is a favorite with my 8-year-old daughter. So her 8-year-old daughter likes the Switch, so that must mean that the Switch is just meant for kids and toddlers, right? It cannot possibly be for adults. By that logic, adults shouldn't waste their time going to Disneyland or theme parks or amusement parks, because it might be some 8-year-old's favorite place too. Because if it's a favorite for kids, then it cannot be a favorite for adults, because that would mean that adult is just a kid trapped in an adult's body. Wow. Enlightening. And then more on the Nintendo ad, hashtagged set playtime free. It appears to make the false assumption that most commuters like to while away their spare hours playing Mario Kart, Minecraft, and Pokemon. You know, the fact that this individual chose to list out these specific 3 franchises, Mario Kart, Minecraft, and Pokemon, as if they're the only franchises that exist in video games, you know, these family-friendly games that are meant for kids or whatever, really shows her range of knowledge surrounding gaming. This feels like such a boomer article. This reminds me of when my mom would say, "Are you playing that Nintendo? You playing that Mario and that Pokemon instead of doing your homework?" It's like that kind of vibe of, is this all you know about games? If Switch is just straight up for kids across the board, then I guess you won't mind letting your 8-year-old play Witcher 3. Because, you know, that's for kids, right? Like, this is clearly coming from someone who's never actually properly sat down and gave gaming a chance, try to play some games, the wide variety of games that exist, everything from your Marios and Minecrafts and Pokemons to your Witchers and Last of Us and Red Dead Redemption 2s and Bioshocks and God of War, Metal Gear, and of course, the peak of video game storytelling, Kingdom Hearts. I can't say that with a straight face. There's just such a wide range of games that are meant for fun, others meant to tell an incredible story and do so in a very cinematic fashion, others intended to experiment with the interactivity between players and story and ways you can create some truly unique experiences from that. Like, none of that is covered in this article because this person truly has no idea what gaming is. They only perceive video games as toys because I guess the word games is in there and we use words like playtime. And there's an emphasis here on infantilizing and how childish video games are, but if you ask me, there's nothing more childish than throwing a tantrum like this without doing your due diligence, especially when you're working professionally as a journalist who's trying to cover games when they're completely ignorant about games. Like, that's what's infantile and inappropriate. This paragraph concludes with, "Doesn't Nintendo realize that the only adults who still use the word playtime post-puberty aren't the types to be found on the tube? They are the overgrown school children riding around outside on e-scooters." So with her preconceived notions on video games, just goes out of the way to insult people who play games, grown men and women who play games, be it as a hobby, professionally, whatever it might be. Apparently, only weirdos do that. And what's this obsession with the tube versus e-scooters? Like there's some kind of war brewing between the two modes of transportation. She clearly hates e-scooters. I don't know why, but apparently that's what we do, us gamers. You know, we're just infantile, ride on e-scooters, and have not mentally developed properly, I guess is the implication. And while I get that video games is not everyone's cup of tea, respect the medium that you don't understand and actually try to understand it before writing about it. Actually try to delve your toes into what gaming is before writing some dumb shit like this. You understand all of these other hobbies that have been around for longer, and so you don't scrutinize those, even though they're equally a quote-unquote waste of time as video games are as hobbies. Really, the only thing that separates video games from, say, movies is its interactive nature, the fact that it's an active experience where it's not just about consuming the content, but also giving something back to the game for it to do with that what it will, the commands that you input. That's really the only difference. And the fact that you are technically playing to win, to beat something through your own efforts, through your own skills, and even then that depends on the game. Some games are straight up just entirely narratively driven. There are interactive choices you can make, but ultimately lead you down this storytelling trail, just as movies and books do. It's a form of expression that also happens to be really fun and interactive. That's really it. It's just another way to live life, another hobby, another enjoyment to partake in. It is my belief that as long as an activity isn't harmful, people should be allowed to do whatever they want that brings them their own personal joy, their own personal fulfillment, their own personal satisfaction. And different people will find that in all kinds of different ways. Some people like to collect rocks and minerals and coins and whatever. That's not something that I'm into. That's something that I wouldn't be invested in, but some people find fulfillment in that. Then there's nothing wrong with it. Some people find great joy in listening to music, reading books, watching movies, playing video games. Whatever. She's putting video games in this special category of you can do everything else. Everything else is okay, not infantile, except for video games, because all she has in her mind in terms of what video games are is Mario, Pokemon, and Minecraft. And even then, what's wrong with an adult enjoying Minecraft, Mario, Pokemon? I mean, Minecraft in particular, some of the mods and some of the crazy stuff that people have built for that game it requires a lot of skill. Mario, especially some of those later levels that are really tough, require quite a bit of skill. Pokemon, if people enjoy that as adults or as kids or as anything in between, who freaking cares? How joyless do you have to be so close-minded on something just because it looks cartoony? A work's visual style doesn't speak to its substance and what it offers to people of whatever age. I still enjoy the early seasons of SpongeBob. I still enjoy Powerpuff Girls. I'm not ashamed of it. Those are great shows. I'm not so insecure about myself that I have to dunk on other people's hobbies just because I lack an understanding of it. And even if the more cartoony stuff isn't to your preference, have you played all of the mature games that are out there and the incredible experiences that they offer, both in terms of gameplay and storytelling and visuals and auditory experience? They're incredible. There's so much incredible work out there that you're missing out on. You've got to have one hell of an inflated ego and one hell of a sense of self-importance to declare what hobby should be deemed infantile and not for adults. This whole idea of you should grow up is bullshit. We're all infantile deep down. We all like to do things that make us giddy, that make us have a lot of fun, again, that bring us enjoyment and fulfillment. And video games just happens to be one of those things that tons of people find great fulfillment from. And that's okay. It's really not different from finding fulfillment and enjoyment from all other kinds of mediums and activities that, when you think about it, are really infantile and dumb. But guess what? They're fun, so who cares? I mean, you think about sports, people just dribbling around balls or kicking around balls into a net, and what a big deal they make out of that. But we find joy in it because it's a human activity where impressive things can happen, and it's a game, and, but when you think about it, the useless activity of kicking a ball around into a big goalpost, how is that so much different from finding enjoyment from video games? It really isn't. We human beings do all kinds of weird, useless things, but that's because life is more than just about the basic need of survival. Life is about living, which seems like an obvious thing to say, but I think there's a difference between surviving and living. There's a difference between fulfilling the needs that allow your body to stay alive versus actually going out of your way to find things in life that enrich you, be it through hobbies, be it through your career. That's what living is. Finding happiness, finding fulfillment. and myself and many others have found such great joy through video games, have made great friends through video games, have socialized through video games. We have learned so much from video games. We've experienced so much through video games. We have just expressed and felt so much through video games. There's no harm in that. This article has the same energy as the whole satanic panic for Dungeons & Dragons back in the day when that was new and misunderstood, and people came up with all kinds of stigmas that were just completely false, and now Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop RPGs are just so widely well regarded, with streams like Critical Role being one of the biggest shows out there. And there are plenty of people out there who found this article utterly ridiculous, uninformed. Looking at the response to this tweet alone, you can see just how baffled people are. Look at the ratio here. Only 96 likes and 345 quote tweets of people just talking shit on it. Deservedly so. People slamming this article for its complete and utter ignorance, for what a bad take it is. Scrolling down, it's just all dissent against just a truly, truly bafflingly awful article coming from a professional writing about a subject that they have absolutely no clue about, except my 8-year-old likes to play Switch, and also Mario Kart, Minecraft, and Pokemon are games. Like, that's the extent of the knowledge that she's shown. And plenty of people are pointing out the hypocrisy in this article of how it's only picking out video games but doesn't call out TV or music or sports. Video games are within that vein. It's entertainment. It's just something else to bring us relief and joy, and something to relieve stress, or something to engage ourselves in when we need to just kind of, for a second, take a break from more stressful aspects of life. Now, my favorite response to this article comes from YouTuber and reviewer Skillup, who responded with this tweet: "Can't believe grown-arse men are wasting their lives on video games when they could be devoting an entire career to talking about the royal family." Noting how the editor of this article prides herself in being one of the world's leading royal commentators, because commentating on the royal family is clearly far more important and far less of a waste of time than playing video games with compelling stories, graphics, music, and gameplay. Now look, if following the royal family and their activities, if doing coverage on that or commentating on that is your thing, I will admit, it's not something that I understand, but I'm not going to dunk on it just because I don't understand it. I'm not going to take a misinformed and ignorant and hostile stance just because I don't understand it. I'm just going to let you do your thing and leave it at that. Maybe you should try something similar. You don't have to play video games, you don't have to understand it, but don't write a report as ignorant as the one you did if you don't understand it, if you haven't taken the time to even try to understand it. Now, Camilla's response to Skillup is hilarious. You read the bit about covering politics as well as royals, right? Or were you too busy playing Mario Kart? Ooh, you really show them, Camilla, because you doing coverage on politics clearly makes you a far more important human being than those grown men and women who have the audacity to find enjoyment in frickin' video games. You also know that all kinds of people play video games, right? Like frickin' doctors play video games, and they're literally saving lives. But hey, since they're adults playing video games, they are wasting their lives, right? This level of narrow-minded self-importance says a lot about just how much her opinions matter when it comes to the topic of gaming. And what's wrong with playing Mario Kart? Honestly, if you haven't played Mario Kart, you're kind of missing out. And I love Skillup's response to this. That Mario Kart dunk was adorable, but I feel like if I continue this, it would be punching down. So play some Switch with your daughter, Camilla. She'd love it, and you'd enjoy it far more than you think you would. It's true. I recommend co-op games like Overcooked or Moving Out. Enjoy. Love this just gentle, kind, constructive response here. Ooh, It Takes Two is another one you should try with your daughter. Trust me, it's a magical experience, and I feel like it might change your mind about video games. Give it a try, Camilla. Just give it a try. Nobody's gonna force you, and if you really don't want to, that's fine, but stop writing articles about games. Stick to politics and the royal family and whatever it is that interests you, whatever fulfills you, but gaming is clearly not it for you. Please, don't talk about games again unless it actually comes from a place of research, knowledge, and of actually trying to understand the medium instead of just dunking on it for a few clicks. And you can see how disastrously this is going for Camilla and how very few people actually agree with her, given the ratios here. Only 96 likes for this article, 2,800 likes for Skillup's response. Then Camilla's idiotic and infantile response garnered only 13 likes versus 31 quote tweets, most of which encompass people talking about, well, what a clown of an article and what a clown of a stance this is. And then Skillup's response to that, 2.6 thousand likes, and a bunch of people tweeted at her and got way more likes than her article or her responses ever did. So yeah, Camilla, when there are this many people highlighting your ignorance, maybe it's time to educate yourself a little bit, or at the very least open your mind up a little bit. So much of my current career, so much of the circle of friends I have, so much of my creative drive was thanks to video games. It had a positive impact in my life. So I hope you'll at least recognize that plenty of people have had similarly positive impacts from video games, and it's not just this toy that you play with that lacks any semblance of substance. There's a lot of artistry at play. It's a medium worth celebrating rather than shunning. It's a medium worth accepting and looking into and seeing the strides that it's making in the way we interact with fiction. Just open your mind up a little bit, or if not, at the very least, just in the same vein as me not comprehending the fascination with the royal family in the same way that you do, understand that you're not gonna be fascinated by everything other people are, and just be understanding of the fact that people have personal tastes on what kinds of activities they like to partake in. You want to talk about people wasting their lives or wasting time? This article is a waste of time, both writing it and reading it. So that's one man's take on what I believe to be an utterly asinine article, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the Telegraph's stance, or at least this editor's stance, that grown men shouldn't be wasting their lives playing video games. Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.